Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And I think everybody knows it's Christmas Eve, but we'll label this as normal. Year 2, blog 44, or in legacy numbers, blog 96. And it's dated, as I said, 24th of December 2023. And a happy, Merry Christmas to you all. I hope you all have a great time, a relaxing time. You all deserve it. Everyone I know has worked damn hard. And, you know, I want everybody to be happy. It's not a happy time for everybody. I have missed being a happy person at Christmas. And I did a Christmas extravaganza yesterday, a live one with my friend Denny. And we discussed, Christmas past and why it might not be for some people. And I think I labelled mine as being the turning point about 1998 when I moved to Manchester. Probably because I moved away from my family and never got to see them as much as I'd like to. And I was by myself. And loneliness is a big part of losing the Christmas magic. Another big part has been me working for the probation service and knowing just how difficult it is for people that are out on the streets, homeless, people in abusive relationships, and the suicides that go on. There's been at least 4 that I know of that I've actually got to know the offenders, spoke to them, wished them well, and then found that they've committed suicide over the holiday period. But, you know, I think the Christmas magic went for me a little bit earlier than 1998. But every year I hope that I'll get that Christmas magic back. Christmas is a lovely time, you know, even on a religious basis, which it's all about, really. But, you know, from my perspective, as friends have moved away, as family members have died, you know, all that stuff that you see on social media, people opening Christmas presents, eating their Christmas dinners. For someone like me, there's no presents. My mother can't be expected at 82 to go and buy me something. It will be an envelope with money in. And then for friends, well, they've moved away, got their own families. So you tend to find that there's nothing there for you under the tree, and you therefore don't have that magic, you know, like it was when you were in your teens and even in your 20s, where you'd go to the under the tree and open presents in front of your parents and all that sort of stuff. So I will try and keep this merry. You know, I'm going to put a big smile on my face, go, hey, Christmas Eve. Put all that bollocks to one side, excuse my French, and concentrate on doing another blog that I hope is entertaining. Got some information in it, some fun in it, that sort of stuff. Go watch if you can, the live stream. I had great enjoyment out of it, but first an apology in that, because I ended it wrong. There's the 2 Ronnies always ended their skits with, and it's good night from me, and Ronnie Corbett would say, and it's good night from him, and they both say good night. And I'd spent 3.5 hours reading all the comments down the side of the stream, reading them out verbatim. And it came to my mind to end with a 2 Ronnies line. And Ox, a good friend of the channel, had put, and it's good night from him. So when it came to doing the line, I read out the line as if I'd read it out from Ox. And it should be, and it's good night from me. I should have said, and I said it's good night from him, putting Denny in a right dilemma. So as much as I love that stream, I cocked it up at the end and felt a bit dismayed. Like, how could you cock up a famous ending like that? So my big apology to you all on that one. but I do hope you find some fun in that video, because I really had a laugh last night. I the most fun I've had for a long time. The only other time I have fun like that is when I'm talking to Denny on the phone, talking to Rockgun on the phone, or talking to Mainmeister on the phone. And that's because you hear a voice and you can just talk in the normal way, and it was just lovely. So Merry Christmas. The fun starts here. And I suppose we start off with the news. I'm hoping this one's not going to be too long for you. I'd like to give you your family time to you. So I've not written down much for the news. We start off with the war, as we always do, because we want to keep it in our memories, and it is still going on. And this article was this morning. Russian military death toll in Ukraine has reached 350,000, according to estimates, including 800 over the past day. Russian attacks in Kyrgyzstan killed 4 civilians and injure 9 others. However, in Ukraine, they are to celebrate Christmas Day on the 25th for the first time since the war began. So I don't think there's a ceasefire, but hey, they're going to celebrate Christmas. Good on them. They need that respite. And the death toll that was mentioned there, just terrible. Just senseless, needless. Merry Christmas to them all. And let's hope the war ends soon. And I've cut down UK news because the biggest news, I think, really is for the kiddies. And that is that the Santa Tracker, which has been going for a number of years now and tracked by NORAD, the Santa Tracker starts at 3 a.m. Pacific time today. So you'll be able to track Santa on his way to deliver all the presents to all the girls and boys on the nice list from 3 a.m. Pacific time. If you're going to go up to your dad or your mum and say, what's Pacific time, mum and dad? Just ask them to Google it. But I'm pretty sure you'd have to do that on your own smartphones. So that's the end of the news. See, got that out of the way. And now we get to the shout-outs. And I always love the shout-outs. These are people that have commented. And with a couple of videos that I've done this week, I did a capsule review and a live. There's a number of them. So all of these big shout-outs and my eternal thanks to them. They are in no particular order. Martroid, Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Robert's Retro Gaming, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, Danny Dukes, LFC Gamer and Vlogs, Wee Bob Art, Rock God 2004, Down the Rabbit Hole, Gaming Since the 70s, Seb's Place, Denny, Ox, and Paul Patrick. Thank you so much for wishing me Merry Christmas, wishing me well, and especially all the ones that mention my mother. I do read them out to her. It brings a big smile to her face. She goes, don't know who they are, but thank them for me. And I go, of course I will. So there we go. So we've got that out the way. And therefore, we're moving into the questions already. So it's going pretty well, isn't it? I'm just going to have a little bit of a drink. Won't be a moment. In fact, actually, I prefer my orange juice. Oh, yeah, that's better. And these are in no particular order either. But these are all people that have left me comments, questions, and we always read them out. And it's probably the longest section of the blog, so hopefully there's some entertainment in this bit. So we start off with Denny, funnily enough. He happens to be the person that I did my live stream for 3.5 hours yesterday. So what has he got to say? Chapter and verse. It says, Merry Christmas, mate, to yourself, your mother, and everyone on here. Here's to a prosperous new year for you all. Well, I've noticed all the comments on this blog. You've got so many to reply to. Oh, my God. I haven't checked, so here we go. You can do without my drivel for 1 week, seeing as it's going to be a busy day for you. There I was trying to keep it short. It's been an absolute blast doing the 4 live streams with you. Absolutely fantastic night last night. So many coming on to enjoy our nostalgic moaning. Yeah, I had a blast. I have to say, it was brilliant. Here's to many more for the new year. I'll also reiterate what you say. Check out each other content. So many wonderful subjects to watch and journeys to enjoy, which makes this the community what it is. Well, that was my hope. I've always tried to join the communities. I want people to get on, meet new friends, talk about new things, expand people's minds. So, hey, maybe I'm doing a good job. I don't know. We'll see. You continue. I'm going to sign off now with my question for you for Christmas Eve. Oh, okay. Good. A short one. On the subject of Laurel and Hardy, which I hope we'll cover in future streams, what are your favourite films they did, and what are your favourite short features they did alongside the films? Oh, wow. All the best, mate. Pass my best wishes to your mother, and I'll catch you very soon. Off to watch my traditional telly now, Into the Twilight Zone. And I wish I could join you. Twilight Zone, anybody knows that's my favourite TV show. Laurel and Hardy. Well, I don't think anybody could mention Laurel and Hardy without mentioning the full movie Way Out West. So many highlights in that. And one of the reasons I like it as well is because it's sort of a Western setting. And my dad and I used to watch many Westerns together. And of course, it's got the famous song in it. So that will always be there. But most people know that I love the shorts, the talkie shorts in particular. And my favourite one being the music box. Oh, excuse me. If anybody has never seen it, it is Laurel and Hardy trying to deliver a piano up to the highest point of a block of houses. There's a multitude of steps, and it's a bloody hard task for them. It really is 20 odd minutes of pure joy, and one that I watch every year. Can't miss that. But if I was to mention some of the others, ones that stand out, there's Bratz. That's where Laurel and Hardy are looking after their own siblings, and it happens to be it's Laurel and Hardy themselves, and they've filmed them really cleverly to make it look like they are two little boys playing next to their fathers. Really good that, because they just fight each other all the time. Just marvellous. Tit for Tat is another great one. That's where Laurel and Hardy, I believe, are setting up a new shop. They tried to welcome themselves to the other shop. They fell out, I think, with the shop manager of one of the shop owners. And it's very much a tit for tat. Every time they go in there, they throw a custard pie into the manager's face. He would then turn around and go into their shop and punch them in the face or something, and then they'll go back into the shop and they'll eat one of the sweets while cracking an egg on top of the store manager's head, and it just goes tit for tat, which is what the whole thing's about. An absolutely fantastic slapstick short. And I don't think we could ever go without mentioning the famous county hospital, where Oliver Hardy is in hospital with a broken leg, and Stan Laurel goes to see him in hospital and brings some food with him and let the madness begin. And that really is a classic short. And I think those ones are my standouts, but they're all standouts, if you see what I mean. Every single one of them is just a joy to watch. I do understand that for some people black and white is difficult. For some people watching the very early ones, which were silent, is another hurdle. But if you just open your mind, relax, get into the mindset that this was back in the 20s, 1921, 22 for the silence. this was a wonder for all of those people. Film, seeing a story acted on screen, and that's what I tend to do. And the other thing I do now is also remember how I watched those with my dad, and we just laughed. Oh, laughed so much. And so that's a happy memory to move on from. And thank you so much, Denny, for bringing that up. And we will definitely discuss Laurel and Hardy at the tip of a hat. I've got mine on at the moment, if you haven't noticed. I'll talk about Laurel and Hardy. I hope to do that with Mainmeister. Hope to do that with you. Let's get some of these old productions out there and show how much joy we had ourselves with them. And then we'll move on now to Ian Hill, The Ramblings. We've got another quite long one, so I'll read it out verbatim. Another great and entertainment vlog, and I can't get enough of nostalgia. Hope your back is feeling not so painful, and you and your mother are doing okay. Thank you for the shout out. Yeah, my back's a little bit better. I'm still squirming a little bit. Walking is still hard. I bought myself a new knee support, which I think is aiding a little bit. I think the old one was getting so old that it was probably cutting off the blood supply a little bit. It feels like I've got pins and needles in my toes, but I can feel them. So I think it really is a trapped nerve or a pulled sprain of something. So thank you very much for asking. Brilliant. It's been a strange week. Not felt very festive at all this year. It's getting past the 26th Boxing Day, the 5th anniversary of my wife's death, then getting through to the 9th of January when my dad died, also 5 years ago. I decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I created a video reading one of the best poems she ever wrote. That's your mother, I take it. Yeah. This would have been part of her 4th book. Wow! 4th book, which sadly she never completed. Oh, wow. My God. The first 3 books were published. It took me a long time to do the video, but I'd like to think she would be happy with it. I'm hoping that next Christmas will feel better. A time must come when this will happen. It's all about being able to fully let go of grief. The same with for my dad too. I just watched Scott's live stream that really made me laugh. It felt great just seeing them having such a good time. I still haven't bought the Doctor Who 60th anniversary special. I will, though, be getting the steelbook of the first Doctor's Celestial Toy Maker. It's been collecting all the steelbooks of the classic animated stories. I'll just end there for a moment just to say wow about the poetry. And you've done a video on it. Please, guys, if you can support Ian, go and see that video. I'm pretty sure that will be a lovely emotional thing to watch and give Ian some support on that. Grief is bad. This is the 7th Christmas without my dad, and it feels just like the first. It should get easier. I'm therefore no, it's me not able to let go that's the problem. And it's got to change. I feel sometimes I need help from my friends, but I've always been that person that goes, you're a rational person, get over it, it's another day, reset like you do every day. Because I do that quite well, I think. I reset on a daily basis. I go, yesterday was yesterday, today's now. But it's so hard with my dad. So anyway, we'll continue. I did watch The Talents of Weng Chiang from 1977 and did a review which will be on the channel the 2nd of January. It's a great story, so much to love and talk about. Could easily do a whole live stream about it. It makes me realise how much I love classic Who. I haven't totally given up on New Who. Will watch the Christmas Day special and hope I can enjoy it. Talons of Weng Chiang, yeah, classic. Always thought of the Doctors. That brought to mind that he'd make a very good Sherlock Holmes, and I think he did play Sherlock Holmes after Tom Baker did Doctor Who, even if it was for a brief stint for the BBC. It's the setting and the sets and the story that make that one all together make it a very interesting story. One that would be hard to do now, with the very nature of it being China, Weng Chiang. But, I have fond memories of that one. So you continue. What do you consider the worst classic Who story? For me, it's always been The Gunfighters, 1966. It's that song. It just drives me mad. I've grown to like The Twin Dilemma. That's a Colin Baker story, 1984. Yeah, 1984. A bit more over the years. Hope you and your mother have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Yeah, The Twin Dilemma gets a bad rep. The two children had never acted before and they were twins. It was Colin Baker's first Doctor Who story, and it was an unusual one where for the first time a doctor had changed, not at the end of a series, a set of stories. It was actually done on the penultimate story, which meant Colin Baker didn't start a whole new block. He was in this one story that would then lead into a series of itself a year later. That had happened before with William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton. It's just that I wasn't alive then, so it was an unusual thing. And anybody that's watched a regeneration story knows that the Doctor is very erratic for the very first story. So there was this new character that was playing the Doctor and was acting murderously towards the companion, dressing up in weird garb, all sorts of things that just made you want to hate the actual episode. And then it didn't continue very well into the new season, because there was another Time Lord introduced, the Rani, along with the Master, and it was set in medieval Britain, and they were turning humans into trees by leaving landmines down. So you walked on this landmine and you suddenly turned into a tree. A weird story, and not a particularly great one. But I do know what you mean about the Gunfighters. The song really didn't upset me, and I put it into the mould of Star Trek's own gunfighter type story, which is equally a hard one to watch. But I'll let it go because I do like westerns, and Doctor Who in a western is probably quite hard to do, especially back in 1966. And I think I would still count not the Paradise Towers. What was it called? I don't know. It's the one with the alien creature was a licorice allsort. Oh, atrocious story. Yeah, it would be one of the Sylvester McCoy stories, for definite, for which there's a couple that I could choose. The first season was particularly a hard sell to me. But thank you so much, Ian, and Merry Christmas to you and salute. Thank you so much for all your support this year. And we'll move on to LFC. LFC, a nice lad, does his own blogs. Please support him as well. Hi, Del. Another excellent showcase, as you do. Hopefully your back will sort itself out, and I'm wishing you and your mum a happy Christmas. As of now, I've got a nasty bug which has left me almost bedridden since Sunday. By the time the next blog is up, touch wood, I should have made a slight recovery. Yeah, touch wood. To say I've been ran over by a bus 10 times over is an understatement. Yeah, I know how that feels. However, pretty much everyone I keep close tabs with is experiencing similar symptoms. Heavy heads, colds, hot and cold sweats, nausea, the list goes on. Question for your next blog. What are your top 3 favourite Carrie Grant films and why? Surely North by Northwest is one of them. However, I might have got that assumption wrong. No, you've got it dead right. North by Northwest is my favourite Hitchcock film, which just happens to have Cary Grant in it. Cary Grant, though, is an actor that I've had great enjoyment with. He's done a number of great films. One that comes to mind is one that I watched with my dad, which had another equally great actor in it, Tony Curtis, and it was called Operation Petticoat, and it's where Cary Grant is sort of like bringing in an old submarine. It's to be decommissioned, I think, during the war. And you know what goes on in war, people scavenge things and everything. Well, they needed to repaint this submarine with special paint. You need it for when you're going underwater. It's a special, I think, a leadish type paint. And they painted, but the only colour that was available was pink. So they got pink submarine. And they picked up some passengers, which happened to be free army people, but they were ladies. So that is a classic that I watch, and it's not on telly enough, to be quite honest. It's been a couple of years since I watched that, so if I got any bits of that wrong, apologies, but it's a memory from a while back. But that is definitely a hidden gem if you're of the younger generation who wants to look for an oldish type film. Operation Petticoat, absolutely fantastic. And then the last one, I think it would be a toss-up. I think I'll go with The Bishop's Wife. And I'll go with The Bishop's Wife because it's more of a supernatural tale, where an angel comes down to help a bishop. It's actually quite a funny, good story. Cary Grant, comedy timing in that story is sublime. So I'm going to count those as my favourite Cary Grant films. So thank you so much for that. And you continue with the second question. As a Coventry supporter who by a considerable mile is your most disliked football team. I'm sure you know my feelings for a certain Manchester club that isn't City or Bolton. Not that I like any of them. Yeah, we're a horrible bunch of people, aren't we, when we get into the football? Well, I had great delight going to see Coventry when they were in what they call the First Division, which is now the Premiership. They were there for a bloody long time. And there is a rivalry between Aston Villa. But I couldn't hate Aston Villa because Aston Villa was my dad's team and my dad's own dad, my granddad's team. So I learned to hate Wolverhampton Wanderers, to be quite honest. Less so now. Don't really have that sort of rivalry anymore. I remember I hated Sunderland for a long time. But I should have liked them, really. The story is, and I can only just about remember it, and it was a tale that my dad told, which was it was Sunderland that went down that year, but there was a relegation battle going on with Coventry. And Sunderland were playing a football team and Coventry were playing a football team, and they were supposed to play at the same time, but Sunderland's game started 5 minutes later. And I believe Coventry's game ended a draw, which meant that everything relied on what was going on in the Sunderland game. And I believe they lost and they went down. But there was a massive scorn from the Sunderland team on the starting so late of their game, that there was resentment across both sides. So I didn't have Sunderland in a very good light. But I always did when Sunderland did come back up to the Premiership, and we always had a relegation battle. It was always Coventry at the bottom with Sunderland and somebody else. Usually, probably the team that had just come up was back in the bottom three the next year. So it'd usually be Coventry, Sunderland, and somebody else. So there were some very lean and bad times for Coventry. There were very few occasions they were in the top 10, and they were usually middle of the table in the Premiership or at the bottom. So, oh, some things have fallen over. I do apologise. Just straighten that. Here we go. So that's my sort of like thoughts on a rivalry. And you've got a third question. Are there any songs that you used to hear on the radio constantly that you really enjoyed, but over time you noticed they're played rarely, if at all? Oh, wow. Let me think for a minute. Yeah, I don't hear much REM music anymore. They used to be playing constantly on the radio. You know the stuff I'm talking about? Let me think. Losing My Religion, Shiny Happy People. Yeah, those sort of tracks. And you hear next to nothing of them now. And I really liked Losing My Religion. Thought it had a really good hook, you know, of a tune. Not so much the words and the religious aspects of it. It was the tune. It had a hook and it just drew me in, and I could sort of like listen to it as an instrumental, if you see what I mean. Had a mandolin in it, I think. Yeah. So that ends yours. Oh, thank you so much. Brilliant questions. Have a Merry Christmas, mate. Please get better soon. Looking forward to your blogs when you come back. Here's to a great 2024. But saying that, I'll be doing a New Year's Eve blog because it's on a Sunday again. So there's a bit of advertisement for me from you, from me to you. Anyway, we then move on to Wee Bob Art. Merry Christmas to you, Wee Bob Art. It says here, enjoyed listening along again, Del. My wife and I only really started watching Doctor Who from the Christopher Eccleston, Billy Piper series. I think Doctor Who, when I was a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, must have passed me by. We have watched all the following seasons, but lost interest during the Jodie Whittaker seasons. The storylines were all a bit preachy from memory. Anyway, hoping again that your back is improving and your mum is doing well. Question for next time, and I'm not sure if you have been asked this before. As Doctor Who can travel through time and taking away the lure of seeing loved ones, do you think you would be more inclined to travel into the past or into the future? For myself, I was always fascinated by Back to the Future Part 2 and going to the future to see what advances humanity had made. But perhaps we may have done a Mad Max and ruined the world in one way or another. Yeah, in other words, a dystopian future. Anyway, all the best and hopes to see your video on Christmas Eve or shortly afterwards. Yeah, I hope to get this out shortly, matey. I'll try and go as quickly as I possibly can. But to answer your question, it has been asked before. And as much as I love history, and as much as I'd love to go back and see Queen Elizabeth I, Henry VIII, etc., etc., I'd be mad not to want to go into the future and see advancements. I've been around computers and I've loved computers and anything to do with electronics for as far back as I can remember. So wanting to know if we're in flying cars now or not, etc., is obvious a lure that I would like to have. But like I say, it's a toss of a coin because I'd like to go back. There's been a lot of talk in the news actually about lots of memes in social media that have stated time travel isn't possible. If it was, why hasn't anybody from the future visited us yet, and all that sort of stuff, all that nonsense. I'm not going to go into a big time travel debate. It probably is impossible. There's all the mathematics. You need to travel faster than light and everything and all of this sort of stuff. I look at it like this. There's a wonder in the world, a science that we've not even touched upon. And that means there's a mathematics that we also don't understand. From that point of view, anything is possible. Forward time travel, backward time travel, anything. And I will always hold steady, fast, hope that we can, but I know that we won't, we can't and won't. And for all that other nonsense about why haven't we been visited already by somebody in the future, how do you know we haven't? How do you know that we're not intelligent enough to know that we don't want to commit paradoxes? We're talking about it even now, and we can't even do it. So in 2,000, 3,000 years' time, no matter how long it takes, who's to say we haven't learned our lessons? We haven't done very well at learning lessons up to this point. But there's got to be a change at some point where we go into a higher plane. And that means knowledge and learning from our mistakes. So I'll forever remain the optimist, even though... So before Colin Jones comes in and proves me all wrong and that it's an impossibility, I'm just saying I'm an optimist, and I know in reality you can't. You know what I mean? So I've covered both bases. Thank you so much for that, wee Bob Art. Hopefully you'll have a great 2024. But for now, I'm just going to wish you a Merry Christmas, because I'll be around before the new year starts. And we move to Down the Rabbit Hole. A great supporter of my channel, and I love his channel. You'll hear me talking about it a little bit later on. But he's mentioned interesting point about power wash in VR Dell. Are you able to actually crouch with a button press like the flat version? Yes, you can. I don't know if any knees would appreciate the amount of bending and crouching. I would need to do it in real life. In the VR version, requires me to do these poses for real or not. There is body tracking now in VR, but you're quite right. Just like walking forward, you do it on moving forward with the controller like this, a controller like this. Okay? And there's also other buttons for changing stuff in your utility bag. But what I was trying to get at is if you hit crouch and you crouch down, you can also just move your head like this, and that will alter your aim, because you'll have your aim of your tracking of your hand here, and you just squirt and you get rid of the dirt. So what I was trying to say is it is easier because of that. But there's mass enjoyment out of it. It's one of those relaxing games, a bit like Jenga. It's like playing solitaire, like, by yourself. Just nice to just relax and go, I'm just going to get rid of every bit of dirt and look at the beauty of this house or this car or this van or this bike or whatever. It's just like that. Good heads up about WordPad, you say. Going away. If I can fire up the hyperdrive fast enough, perhaps I'll do an OB Windows. Knows about that. Yes, I'm sure he does. Just communicate to him over the communication airwaves. I'm sure the force is strong in him, and that you'll be able to talk to him directly and get that message across. Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas to you, my friend. And we move now forward to, I think it's Danny Jukes. He's just put great video and have a great Christmas. So I'm just going to say the same back to you, young man, or if I take it, you young man. Most people are younger than me. So I tend to get into saying that saying. Just going to have a bit of a drink. That's better. And we move to Colin. So we just mentioned him just now. So my good friend Colin, friend of the channel, brilliant supporter of my channel, does so much for us in Discord. Any problems that we have, he's there with a researchable answer to people's problems. So he starts off his comments to me with, long weekend off, so got the chance to watch on Monday this time. That's my blog, right? For comments, I think it's the time of year I can say for myself that I've been busier than usual, even though things are generally organised. I don't know why. Sorry about the lack of fun and laughter in my vlog last week. Let's hope the next one will have some happier news. Glad to hear walking is so beneficial for you, and I can't state enough how important it is to walk. I think it's built my immune system up. So yeah, and it does clear my mind. It really does help clear my mind. Smartwatch batteries are the worst thing about them. My first two died due to batteries, so now I have a low power one that needs charging once a week. Fewer charges equals longer lifespan. Yeah, I was mentioning last week about Garmin. You can change the battery, don't get me wrong. Nothing is impossible. But Garmin's philosophy is a bit like HP's philosophy on printers, in the fact that when the ink runs out, you might as well chuck the printer out. Get yourself another one, right? Because we all know what the price of ink is like. So when it comes to the watch, and the battery being a big part of it, they want you, after so many recharges, and it's starting to lose its rechargeability, to go out and buy the next one. You're bound sure to need the next one. It's going to have so many extra new features. You just got to do it. Not necessarily so. You pay £699 for a watch. And I'm telling you now, back then, you'd have thought you'd have got something for life. You know, on an analog watch, back in the 50s, if you bought a £699 watch, it'd be gold. B, the mechanics inside it would be Swiss and fantastic. And it would be designed to last a lifetime. So, don't agree with the philosophy that we're in a throwaway society all the time. Oh, I loved Fluke, the novel. Stephen King wrote that, yeah. Not ruined it by trying to watch the film. Yeah, so I haven't read the book, but I watched the film. I knew it was Stephen King. It's very much a sentimental film. I mentioned a film last week. What was it called? Something Bobby, wasn't it? Greyfriars Bobby, which is all about a dog in Scotland. The owner died. And the dog remains at the side of the owner even though he's in his grave. It's very much a sentimental film like that. So it sometimes is a hard watch, but it's got some funny moments in it, so it's worth watching. Trading Places, such a good film. Duke's cameo from them in Coming to America, I think. Yes. The Dukes are brilliant. They're the people who are the stockholders of the company. Don't want to ruin it for anybody if you haven't seen it, although it is a 40-year-old film now. Nice touch with the Woolies ad. Yes, I put a Woolies ad at the end, didn't I? Well, it is my favourite Christmas advert. So brilliant. I love it. Question for your next blog, and it's now Christmas Eve. Do you have any Christmas traditions that you're deliberately trashed because they were just too stupid to even be fun anymore? Joy. I have plenty of them. Set a few new ones too. I think some are a bit harder now to sell to children. Writing a letter to Santa is one, when we all know that we email everybody. So that's a hard sell. Christmas cards are difficult to sell now as well, when you consider that we want to recycle everything. So spending money to put on a card that somebody then puts on their shelf and then they chuck away, bit of a waste. That's a tradition. Advent calendars are the worst. I think kids love making them and there's nothing wrong with that. But buying an advent calendar where you can actually see the chocolate but in the packaging, and you open it up and eat the chocolate that day, I think it causes more problems than it does joy, because it's who can wake up the earliest and get to eat the chocolate before they go to school. So, doesn't help with sibling rivalry, is what I'm trying to say there. So there isn't much harmony in an advent calendar. Doesn't teach anything, I think, really, either. Patience, possibly. But just causes rivalry. I bet you any money that there's probably been wars based on advent calendars. Probably have. Thank you so much for wishing me a Merry Christmas. I wish you a Merry Christmas, my friend. And hope to speak to you soon. We moved to Seb's place, who I've been a big fan of now for most of this year. His quality of his productions are just now brilliant. But he gave a shout out to me in this week's video. So that really humbled me. I don't get a shout out very often. I don't get to hear my name being mentioned. But when it happens, I'm gobsmacked. And then, of course, I've got the biggest smile on my face for about 2 days. Really does lighten my mood. So thank you so much, Seb. And you've put, thanks for watching, Dal. On the subject of owning an Atari 2600, what were your favourite games growing up with the system? Yeah, because I have talked about the Atari 2600 quite a few times. I didn't have a very early one. Mine was a late 70s. But my neighbour had one in 1977, 78, and his dad worked for K-Tel Records. So they had a very flash car, and they had all the modern stuff because he was a salesman. Must have been good at his job. And so from that point of view, he was sort of like the lad you wanted to be in the street, because if I got a bike for Christmas, he had a motorbike for Christmas. It was like that. So he had an Atari 2600 in the street first. And I used to have great memories of going around and playing games. And then when I finally got one myself, I was able to borrow some from him. He was starting to move away from it a little bit. He hadn't bought anything for a long time, but he still treasured his cartridges. So one of the games I used to love playing was Yar's Revenge and Andy's Attack. I think it was Andy's Attack. No, it was Yar's Revenge for definite. Tank Commander for definite. Like both of those. Space Invaders was incredible for the time. Trying to think. River Raid and Pitfall. The cartridges were so expensive. Things like Pitfall and River Raid became mainstays because they had length in the games. They weren't level 1, level 2, level 3, and all that happened was the creatures got a bit different, or the waves became larger and elongated. So that really was my Atari 2600 history, because it wasn't that long before I got an Atari 800, which I loved, but was fortunate to get one because just a series of events. The Atari 800 I've got now is not the one that I had back then. The one that I had, it was either I fixed it from what my sister's job was, which was selling computers, and it was a lot of machines were chucked on the scrap heap because they were broken and unsellable, like the cases were cracked and you weren't going to find anybody to fix a cracked case. So I fixed them. I got some plaster of Paris and just moved over the cracks and all sorts of stuff, because these things were built like out of steel, chassis. So they were quite easy to fix. You could use like a blue tacky type, silly, putty type stuff to fill in and then smooth it and then paint it, and all sorts of stuff that you could use, or even use glue, paint over the glue, all sorts of methods. So yeah, I enjoyed that. So thank you very much, and I'm going to say Merry Christmas to you and move on that one. And we move to Rock God, who doesn't normally comment, so thank you very much. My friend who talks to me each week, voice-wise. Got a great channel. I'm learning an awful lot from him because I'm getting into Iron Maiden. Who'd have thought someone like me getting into Iron Maiden? Anyway, back to what he's mentioned. He's put, thank you so much for the lovely kind words, my friend. Hope you and Mummy are doing good. By the time you read this, you'll be doing your blog on Christmas Eve. So I just want to say, I hope you and your mother have a lovely Christmas. And thank you so much for all your continued support and for the amazing gifts you've sent me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, my friend. Merry Christmas, buddy. It's not the easiest time for either of us. You take care and try and enjoy the day. And I'm welling up a little bit. Both him and I share a dad that sadly now left us. He's had such a bad time, Nige. Laura's on her second kidney now, and hopefully, fingers crossed, doing well. We're in the first 6 months for him, and he tries to entertain us each week with his knowledge of Iron Maiden, horror films, lots and lots of knowledge on horror anyway, and other films, and there's, his knowledge is like mine, when it comes to TV and Laurel and Hardy films and all that sort of stuff. So we can sort of like talk on a level basis, where youngsters these days that are talking about films, they can run rings around me with all of the haute couture films, the very, these French films and all that are coming across, that I go, what? Never heard of it. Never heard of that director. Don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I learn an awful lot. And that's the reason why I've enjoyed trying something different this year, because film is a very important aspect. Anybody who's seen my trailers at the end where I've shown you what I've bought this year, all of those things have cost 20, 30 quid each. So I've spent an awful lot of money, and a lot of those films I'm watching again because I saw them the first time. So you can imagine, I've now got doubles of an awful lot, and it's nice that I'm able to pass things on. A lot of the gifts that he talks about, some of them have been a pass on of something that I've got a duplicate of. But if I can help somebody that's having a bad time, it takes me away from the bad time I'm having. And I don't want that to take away from the sentiment that's there with it, because I want him to be very happy. But, I'm not a maid of money. And so therefore sometimes it will be, I wonder if he'll like this from my collection. I hope he does. I'll send that in the post. Maybe he'll get a smile. So Merry Christmas, my friend. My toast to you. Rock on and all that. Please support his channel. He's got a great channel. Just look up Rock God 2004. You will find it. Then we've got 2 messages from Robert's Retro Gaming. So I don't know which order to read these in. It says here, I commented before you talked about me. What was I thinking? Thanks for the kind words. Regarding Minecraft episode 100, I saved up exploring the ancient city that it took me ages to find. What do you want from me, man? On the subject of terror and excitement, I pull off something in, I think, episode 103 that I never would have thought could be done. We'll get to your stuff in a minute, Robert. But yeah, I wasn't poo-pooing episode 100, and finding an ancient city and exploring it is great. Just that I don't know what it is. I suppose it's because 100 is a big, massive number. I was just going, he's gonna show something that you can't make, or a special tip that he's been holding back on to show because it's so beloved to him, and it's a mechanical trap or something like this that only he'd have thought of, something like that. But I'll tell you what, damn hard to do, these videos, and a mammoth task, and I'm looking very forward to 103. I'll just skip ahead and see whether I've listed 103 down, because he did say it might be in a week or so, and he's up to 101, yeah. So we've got 2 episodes to go to get to 103, so I'll mark that in my diary. He continues with a second comment. Hey, Del, haven't found the time to watch and listen to your blogs for a few weeks, and I miss you, man. I can't say it like him. It's just terrible. I wish I could. And I miss you, man. I'm very sorry to hear about your struggles with back pain. I know this well, as I've got a couple of nerves that no longer work on the left side of my spine. It gives me a distinct limp. Atrophied, is that how you pronounce that? Atrophied muscles and chronic neuropathic pain. Sadly, in the couple of months I have a new disc bulge that is causing me more pain. An additional loss of motor control, which is very frustrating. Anyway, enough about me. I hope your condition continues to improve and that all the steps you are taking, walking, new bed, stretching, etc., work to bring you out of it. Yes, thank you so much, my friend. You're still going to continue, but I just want to go back to that. I wasn't aware of all of these problems that you've got, but although my problem is a little bit different to yours, they're similar. I've got what they call fifth sciatic nerve damage. And it's the lower part of the spine, like you've got. You mentioned there's a bulge. That's the gel that's between 2 bones, in your back. They go bone, gel, all the way up. And that gel can split, and the contents can come out, and then it can harden. And the problem is you've got all of your nerves running past down this spine, and it then becomes like a fret on a guitar, where this gel, which is now turned hard, is now twanging the nerve as it moves. And it's all, if you can imagine, when you twang a guitar string, it vibrates and then it slowly stops. That's the feel you get down your left side of your leg, and that's why I had to have keyhole surgery where they cut it away. The trouble is that gel set naturally just being broken and split means that it's going to decrease, as the pressure is put on. It won't be long before bone hits bone, and that means there's no buffer, no piece of rubber to stop that impact, and every step is going to be like concrete hitting concrete, like that, and it hurts, bloody hurts, terrible. They can do what they call a fusion operation. They've rejected it for me, saying your back is not that bad for that. A fusion operation involves a metal clamp that goes around the bottom of your spine, but it also therefore takes away the mobility. So you can imagine it's like a collar, and then the only bending that you can do will be above the metal point. So you could have a really thin collar, but it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference. You'd be still restricting a huge amount of movement. So they just hope that you can use pain relief and stretching to make sure that those nerves are not flush and tight against your spine, that they move slightly away and therefore are slightly looser, and therefore not going to be subject to that like piano twang that I was talking about earlier, the guitar twang. You continue. So busy this time of year. Besides working full time, we've had one of our daughters come back for the last week, leaving tomorrow, and another coming for 2 weeks, arriving tomorrow. It's our youngest daughter's birthday today, and my wife and I are performing in our choir Christmas concert. So those are my excuses. YouTube and TV viewing tend to fall away a bit, I have to say, I'm still about 40 minutes to go on this epic blog, but I'll get there, enjoying it as always. Thank you so much, matey. No, just a Merry Christmas from me to you. Great, your family are coming to see you. I'm dead jealous of that. You know, to be quite honest, I'd love to have more people around, but it is what it is. Oh, a bit more drink. We get to Martroyd. He says, I visited a friend over the weekend and we watched both 2001 and 2010 films. Haven't viewed them in quite a while and I was blown away all over again by the quality and ever patient message they deliver, especially considering the way that the world operates today. I would absolutely love to see a deep dive of those two classics by Denny and yourself. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. 2001 and 2010. What a combination of movies to have for one topic in a video stream. Martroyd, you're on. It will be on this year. We will be doing that. I've got both films. 2001 multiple times. 2010, I still have the VHS of it, and I think I've got a DVD of it, and I think I might have the Blu-ray, but I'm not sure. It's been a while. It's not a very popular film, 2010. But yes, I've got it. So we'll do that. And then we get to the last one, gaming since the 70s. My mate Steve. Steve, Merry Christmas to you. I hope you have a fantastic Christmas. You bastard. No, sorry. Where was my head going? My salute to you, sir. Merry Christmas, friend. Dell, regarding Pico 8, let's collab and make a game together after Christmas. Why not? It would be a giggle. I said that last week, didn't I? That was stupid of me, wasn't it? We'll have to try. I'm itching to do something creative. That's what I think I was saying last week. And programming languages don't work out very much with me, but I need to force myself this year, try something. All those if then else statements, arrays, they scare me, but they shouldn't do. I've been around them before. I've programmed in C actually, with all their libraries. Yeah. I'd be much better at the graphic side of things, to be quite honest. I did type a rather long reply in your last blog, see image in Discord, but I guess it was deleted again. Was it? Question mark. Must admit, we've got a question mark on that, and I'm so sorry to say I couldn't find it, but YouTube is just doing my nut in at the moment. Absolutely atrocious. This is getting absurd now. Really annoying. Anyway, I'm going to cheat and throw last week's questions back at you. Question 1. Okay. Series versus seasons. Now, I still and will probably always refer to TV shows as series, but I know many, yourself included, use seasons. When did seasons come here? Is it an American import? And when did you personally stop referring to a TV program as a series and switch to seasons? It's an interesting question, that one I haven't really thought about. But I think it went like this. I always used to use the word series, and it still is. And that's because anything that's in Britain that runs over multiple years is called a series. However, as your collection grows, and when you're at the very, very early stages of box sets that you can buy, whether they be on tape or VHS or DVD or Blu-ray or even 4K now, you'll find that the Americans put season 1, season 2, season 3. Columbo is listed as being season. Twilight Zone is being listed as season. Outer Limits is listed as being season. The Streets of San Francisco is a season, etc., etc., etc. And so you then have a divide. The Americans calling it season and us calling it series. So I tend to interchange them, and sometimes I will foul up my words and call something a series for the American side and call something a season for the British side. It's just one of those things. So it's interchangeable a bit, but you are quite right. Season is an American thing, I think. I don't think it started anywhere else. I do apologise. I had to stretch there, but my back's been killing me, and didn't get much sleep last night. So feeling a bit better, okay now, because we've got to the end of the questions, and we now move into the final phase. And I'm just going to take a small break. It's only taken an hour to get to this point, so this should be quite short. So I'm just going to stretch my back, and I'll be back. There we go, a little small jump cut. And I forgot that there is a second question from Steve. Do apologise, Steve. The pain was getting to me a little bit, and it took over, and I forgot that there was a second question. So your second one is, what was the first game you have ever played that had a built-in map or level editor? Mine was Magic Mushroom on the BBC. Take care, mate. Love to your mum. Oh, also, happy Christmas. Last edit, December 18th. If YouTube delete this, I'll just give up. Oh, don't give up, matey. Always remember you've got Discord. If you ever get into problems, I'll start using that and copy it in myself. You're a big supporter of me. I'd hate to lose you. And a lot of people love what you put. So many, I mean, Denny even mentions you virtually each week. Steve mentioned this about adventure games, etc., etc. So would love that. But to answer your question, difficult one, because you got to use memory again here. And I would say the very, very earliest editor, and it comes to mind, is Lode Runner. Love that game. Love the platform aspect of it. And it was great to design some of your own little levels. But Boulder Dash is the obvious one that comes to mind. People who know me know that Boulder Dash was one that my mother could get into, and also my girlfriend's mother at the time in the early 80s. Well, I call her girlfriend. She was a girl and a friend, and I'd liked her to have been a lot more, but that never turned out. And I haven't spoken or thought about them in a long time. But Boulder Dash was sort of the glue that gelled us a little bit on that one. Other than that, I loved something called the Racing Destruction set. And the reason I loved the Racing Destruction set, it was part of a series of what they call construction sets from Electronic Arts, I think it was. I remember the packaging. It was a white packaging, clam-shaped, pretty big plasticky thing that held, and it was on disc. So that was the other thing. It didn't work very well on tape. But they had a pinball construction set as well. But I mentioned those only as an afterthought because they are later on, and Lode Runner is a very early game that I had in the very early days of the Commodore 64, and the Atari. I had them on both. So definitely the earliest game would be Lode Runner. Thank you so much for that. And I'm just going to minimize the questions now and move on to my pad, which is what I've been watching on YouTube. And I should be able to fly through these. And the reason for that is I think I spend too much time describing the content of them. And really they're there as a pointer on what I've watched, but also a little bit about what they're about this week. So there are two mainstays, and those are This Week in Retro and Techno. So This Week in Retro was great. It mentioned even David Retro Games Played Badly by name in that episode. But the subjects this week were an IT shop in Canterbury in a 1990s style. So the shop has been set up like the 1990s. That was an interesting one. Then there was a more interesting one, which was arcade games that have been made for the home market, which are better than the actual arcade. And that's an interesting subject because arcade games were designed to take your money. And when you go into a home market, there you either got to make them so much harder because you're going to keep it for life, or you're going to make it exactly the same, which means that you can practice, or you're going to make it easier and you're just going to play it and move on to something else. So they mentioned a few games that they felt were better than the arcade. On the most part, I can see the agreement in it, but it's a hard one to choose. I tend to find that I'm no good with top tens and things like that for the exact same reason, and the fact that the next time you ask me the question, it'll be a different set of games that I'd mention. So that was an interesting one. And then what we do at Christmas for our retro hobby, which was interesting to hear what other people do. And I've mentioned it before that Christmas is a lonely time for me. And I tend to buy a game on Steam and I get involved in it and then I don't play it again. So you tend to find that Christmas and January, I have the maximum amount of hours on Steam, and then it fades off a little bit for the rest of the year and then grows again to when you get to sort of like December again, where it raises considerably more again. So, yeah. Games is something that is definitely at the heart of my Christmas, because it's to get to encompass me and take me away from the pain of real life that is Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and all of that sort of stuff, and the time where I'm away from work. And Techmo did a little thing on a karaoke 8-track Christmas machine. So in Japan, they not only had things on disc, but they did them on 8 tracks as well. And I think most people will know by now what an 8-track is. It was before the cassette tape, where it had exactly that, 8 tracks, and they played in a loop. There was no forward, there was no back. You could move to the next track by a button press. And if it was 8-track, it's because it had 2 heads, a head 1 and a head 5. So it went 1 to 5, 2 6, 3 7, 4 8. So it was like playing the other side. So of course you could have 8 tracks. So there was no forward. It's really quite a clever system. So that was an interesting one, not because of the karaoke side so much, but because I was looking at another piece of equipment that I'd never seen. So definitely worth a watch. Then I watched a channel called The Mystical. And the reason for that is the Quest 3, my headset, my VR headset, which is just down there, that white thing there with the 3 little notches on it, had an update this week, and it's now got outer body tracking, which is quite important, because if you ever know what the early days of VR, all of the avatars ended at your waist. So when it tracks now, you can track with legs there, and it will start coming in. At the moment, they're just doing body tracking, which means arms move realistically because it's tracking now the hands, rather than just having them use AI to move the arms and so forth. So that was good. And the updates were major updates, and they really are quality of life improvements. So that's great. And the stability of the device is just getting better all the time. Then we move to Hot Shot Tech, which again is a MetaQuest free channel, where he listed the 100 plus tips and tricks to use with your new headset. And there was a good 50 of them that you couldn't do on the old VR MetaQuest 2, Oculus 2. So that was interesting. Learned an awful lot there about how to record and so forth, you know, my gameplay and so forth. So that was great. We moved to Retro Game Diaries. They did a Christmas video game diary, which was pretty good. I won't say much more than that. It's worth a watch. Near mint condition reviewed a book called the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man Artist Edition book, which I didn't know about. Now, I've got many artist editions by IDW, mostly by my favourite artist, John Romita Sr., who sadly died this year, which is why one of the other reasons why I can't wait for 2023 to end. But this one was by Todd McFarlane. You'll always see a Todd McFarlane poster just there, and how he drew Spider-Man. And this artist edition is actually the drawings that he used non-colorized, so you can see all the pen and ink work that he did on it. Absolutely lovely, gorgeous book. It's the size, honestly, if I was to put it on this table, it would go to there as a book. I've done an artist edition before for John Romita Sr. Check one out. That was very, very early on in my blog, so you'll have to go back 2 years. I might do more of those, but this artist edition is gorgeous. I have ordered it, but I'm on the wait list because it's been sold out. So I missed out. Unfortunately, when he came out with his video, it had been pre-ordered to death. And then we get to Mid-Level Media, which is about video in particular. He did a video called Arrow Video Surprise Announcements for 2024. And what I mean by surprise announcements is Arrow have had a blistering year for releases. If you look at any of my blogs where I've shown you a box set of something I've bought, the ones that have been standout in class have been the ones that have come from Arrow. Okay, what they're doing now though is they're reissuing past glories that have even been released this year in a sort of like a pauper edition, a sort of like a cut down version. Less books, less posters, but the films are there. And even with some of the box sets, they've taken one of the films out. So they're re-releasing the Psycho box set, which, if you remember rightly, I showed on this channel, and it had 1 to 4 in there. This one is just Psycho 2, 3 and 4, and some of the extras taken away. It makes it cheaper. It makes you able to get it again rather than be out of stock and having to pay scalper prices, but you are buying a more cut down version. So yeah, that is a surprise announcement. They've done this with Hellraiser and a few others. So now we're going to move on to the movie side of things, which I always give a little shout out to because I spend a little bit of time that's on their side. I'm hoping to get back into doing some chats with them. They've all come back and said definitely they'd like to see me back on, and I'm looking forward to that. So we start off with Rock God. He's done a Prezi from a subscriber unboxing. He's done My Video Nasty Collections, Volume 1 and 2, which only covers the first Section 1 video nasties. And there are 3 sections, video section 2 and 3. These are all the banned films that Mary Whitehouse and the law stopped people from being able to rent, buy, or anything, and they are banned still in this country. So that first tier has got 30 odd titles and are still even now banned in this country, but you can import them. Brilliant video. You want to see that? The class in that video is just something else. You'll learn something. That's the thing. Video dates back so many years and my childhood, and it brings back those old days of me having Betamax VHS tapes, walking into a store and seeing tapes that you couldn't actually see. They were behind the counter of the owner of the shop, and you had to ask to actually have a look at them. And then eventually those were removed in their entirety because of Mary Whitehouse and the way that they were perceived as a film back in the day. So then we move on to Scott the Movie Critic. He's done a ×2 subscriber unboxing video. Brilliant stuff. Always nice to get subscriber stuff, I'm sure. I don't get that side to my blog, but just think of, you open up a YouTube channel, you start something off, people watch it, and then people enjoy it so much, they send a gift to you to go in your collection. It's just, must be one of the most wonderful feelings to have, and Scott got 2 this week. So good on him. Then we've got Andy from Forgotten World of Movies. He's done a ×2 subscriber video as well. I can only imagine that's a common thing, because we are building up to Christmas and these are gifts. Some of them are considered subscriber mail, some of them are considered gifts. I hope mine are considered gifts rather than subscriber mail, because I'm a subscriber to them anyway, but it's almost like me buying a pipe for them for just their content. Euphoria Pictures, Keith in Ireland, what a guy. He has got a collection second to none. He buys the collections that have got busts and model pictures of towers from the film, model cars with the discs in them, all sorts of stuff. And he showed off a couple. He did and he actually gave, for the first time, a piece of advice of a bust that he urges us all to go and have a look at. This bust, there are only 330 odd in the world, and the statue is 50% off at the moment. So if you're ever interested at all in films, go and watch this. He's given you the biggest tip that you could ever have. Unfortunately, it's at a time where I've used all my money, so there was no chance of me looking. But if I'd have emptied my credit card, to the point where, I could almost pay it off, I'd be all over that website. Oh. And then you got Did You See That, which is my friend Mike. He did some video chats this week, but also did some reviews. He did some reviews of Aquaman, I believe, and one other, can't quite remember what it was. Always brilliant, worth a watch. And then you got Ian Hill, The Ramblings, and he's, as I mentioned before, can't keep up with him. My God, he's done Doctor Who videos, Hammer House of Horror videos, subscriber mails, films he's bought this week, films that he's watched that he thinks you ought to watch as well, and a big selection of Doctor Who. You will always get enjoyment there. And lastly, which you shouldn't be last, there is the chat circuit. The chat circuit generally operates on a Wednesday and Thursday, for the two I watch anyway, and they are from Scott the Movie Critic on a Friday and Playtendo Guy, which is Pete, on a Wednesday. Brilliant channels to watch. They will be starting up again in the new year. If you've got anything if you do a New Year's wish list, put it down on your wish list to go and watch a movie chat channel for a week. Just see whether you like it or not. Just going to have a drink now. And the last section is your YouTube, stuff I've watched of you guys. And we start off all the time, because there's no order to these, down the rabbit hole. Done a couple of videos this week. He did Crazy Balloon, which is an old 82, 83 arcade game with a balloon that swings from left to right like a pendulum. And you've got a maze, and this thing's moving like this, and you have to move this balloon around the maze. And of course, it's constantly going like this. You hit the sides and the balloon pops. Brilliant video. Forgotten all about that game. I never saw it in the arcades, but I did play it in emulation. And it's been copied as well on Commodore 64s and Spectrums. Probably not called that exact name, but very popular in the day. Intriguing to watch. And then he did a Seasons liqueur drinking video, which was made out of a bottle that looks like a Christmas pudding. And it was a gin liqueur. Never heard of gin liqueur. Looked disgusting, but apparently tasted all right. And that ends down the rabbit holes section for this side of Christmas. So thank you so much for all your content this year. I'm looking forward to your New Year's Eve, one that you might do before New Year's Eve, and then all of the new stuff that you're going to be doing next year. You've had a fantastic year. Thank you so much. And then we've got Gaming Since the 70s, my friend Steve. How much has he done? He's done an advent calendar, and he's now up to the end. Episode 24. I don't know if he's going to do any specials, because he's done 4. But if he does, thank you so much for all your content, mate. Brilliant. And then we move on to Robert's Retro Gaming. And as I said, can't keep up with Robert either. Fantastic channel. You've heard the words of him
on my comments page. And he did a Microsoft Play episode 101 and then Minecraft in Exile up to episode 96. So he's moving very, very rapidly through that set. He did another episode of Euphoria, which is a Steam game. He's up to episode 8 of that. So it's getting very hectic now. It's getting much harder. And then he did some 8-bit plays. That's 8-bit games on the Atari mostly. The ones he chose were Tank Commander, Crunch, Colossus Chess 4, Chop Suey, Rally Speedway. Yeah, and possibly a couple of others. It's quite difficult for me to track down them all. I watch them as they come out, and then I have to go back and look and write them down with my chicken scratch to see where we are with them. We've already mentioned as well Seb's Place, but he did a shout out to me in his channel. Thank you so much. That I had a smile for 2 days. Brilliant. And it was my pleasure to help. Definitely go and have a look at his channel. 20th Century Game, I've also mentioned a little bit before. He did 3 live streams, and he also did a long play video on a game called Draconis. I didn't watch the walkthrough all the way through because I want to play it myself. But it's great to know it's there, and that if it's a long play, he's bound sure to have finished it, or darn close. Then we've got Colin Jones, where he did his blog 62 to be in fact, where there was some Christmas cheer, but there was also some hardships and horrible things to rant about. So definitely worth a watch always. And then we've got my mate Mainmeister. How could I forget Mainmeister? Mainmeister has done it. He did a Sunday game stream. He's done a Friday waffle. He did an 8 and 16-bit kerfuffle that was done on a game called Impact, which is like Arkanoid. And he's done with his friend the top 10 darts players, which is quite a long video, but very, very interesting, especially if you're into darts, which my mum and I both are. And now we come to the bit of what I've bought this week. So we're going to switch cameras. So just quickly. Oh. There we go. Managed to find it. I do apologise. Not particularly great at smoothing the transaction to that. But there's a number of videos and stuff that I'll just show you quickly. I'll just stretch and move back. It's a bit hard with my back at the moment. This has got a tail to it. This is Chucky. And it's the HDR collection. Although it's not, because one of the very first film, Chucky, is in Blu-ray. And that's to do with licensing. It comes in a massive box. It's got posters and everything in it. But to have a set that's not all 4K, it's a bit of a cheek. But I don't think there was anything they could do about it. So many of these are being returned because of the crease line between the top and bottom part of the box is not in line. Mine's not too bad, but you can still see it's slightly out. It's supposed to look like the Chucky doll box. And they haven't done, and it doesn't look too bad. And there's a blue version, which is an Arrow exclusive, or there's a yellow version, which you can get from anywhere. But the story behind this is that I ordered it, ummed and ahed over it, and cancelled last week. But it's still turned up. Now, if they've charged me, I might be sending it back. I'm not that enamoured that I want it in my collection. I'm pretty sure I could buy it again in a later collection that will be much better constructed than this one. But if it is for free, brilliant, keeping it. We've got a very obscure movie here that I learnt about by circling around some trailers, and that's one called Wandering Earth 2. I can get that in shot. It's from China, and it's a little bit like Mortal Engines, where there's been so many catastrophes in space that they decide to make the Earth a big rocket, so that you can push the rocket, push the Earth out of the way of danger. So a very interesting film, full of special effects. So a brilliant no-brainer for me to buy on 4K, but also a steelbook, and it was a steelbook at a steal of a price. To be honest, very, very cheap.
looking forward to watching that one. My Creepshow collection for TV continues with now season 4. Artwork on that is brilliant. Just look at that. Just so colourful. So I've now got a 4th season of Creepshow, and that goes from strength to strength. I love anthology horror. That's brilliant. This was sold out when I ordered it through Warner, but I bought my copy of Elf from Warner direct rather than getting it through Amazon, and that was because it was sold out. It's quite a nice box set. It's another one that's lovely presented. If you look at the side, you'll see it's not only got a steelbook, which will be gorgeous, I'm sure, but it's also got an envelope of goodies. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I have to thank my friend Nige again, because he scoured the internet and found out that JFK, a favourite film of mine, is being reissued this year, and it's out in the States right now under the Shout Select range. There it is, JFK. And this has got 4 discs in it. 1 is 4K and 3 a Blu-ray. What you have to consider with this is if you haven't got a multi-region Blu-ray player or 4K player, you might have difficulty. Not with the 4K, but with the Blu-ray. There's 3 discs in this set, which are Blu-ray out of the 4. So you've got the film, but maybe not all the extras. In my particular opinion, I've got a multi-region player, so I'm fine. And the last one is what Ian hasn't bought just yet, and that's the Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials in a steelbook. Lovely looking edition. They always do great artwork, but not to everybody's taste. And I've got it because I've got all the other steelbooks. So we move back to this view and we're going to play some videos. Yes. So I'll do the very best I can to stay quiet. I'll turn the mic off as well. That'll help. And you can watch the videos this week. Some of them are the things that I've just shown you. Some of them will be what I've watched this week that I haven't got in physical media or didn't buy this week in physical media, but I actually have it. So let's go down to media playback and let's start the first of 4 trailers.
Lieutenant Colonel Liu Peiqiang, please head to the hibernation chamber immediately.
Moss, 人类能活下来吗？
2044, the space elevator crisis.
Oh my God.
2058, lunar fall crisis. 2075, the Jupiter gravitational pull crisis. 2078, the solar helium flash crisis. In order to survive, great efforts and sacrifices were made by man, who eventually won the victory of evolution. And yet, evolution has never stopped its footstep.
丫丫已经死了。我在现实里。不，你没有资格定义什么叫现实。丫丫一定会好好的活下去。
There is more than one definition of life. Your human body has limited your vision. Men are in awe of the history, yet despise the future.
没有人的文明毫无意义。
The fate of civilization is up to the choices of men. The biggest impediment for survival is never weakness, but arrogance.
No human being has ever set foot in Santa's workshop. That is, until Buddy.
I hear you're going on a journey to the big city.
Can't wait to see my dad.
This might be the opportunity to find out who you really are.
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
Thanks, Mr. Narwhal. Papa says New York is pretty different. Sorry! Oh. Looks like a Christmas tree. Sorry I can't ride with you the rest of the way up. Well, have a good time. Oh, I forgot to give you a hug. Dad!
You look like you came from the North Pole.
That's exactly where I came from.
You have another son. You like sugar, huh?
Is there sugar and syrup?
Yes.
Then yes.
We can't leave him alone here. He's gonna destroy the place.
Son of a nutcracker!
These guys are bad news.
Snowball.
Where did you say you were from?
Fruit spray? Wow.
Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town.
Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him. I know him.
Everyone has a birthday they'll always remember.
Can we open my presents now, Mommy? A good guy! I knew it! Hi, I'm Chucky.
He's something, isn't he?
This is Andy's.
Time for bed, Andy. Good night, baby.
Good night, Aunt Maggie. Good night, Chucky.
Everyone knows most accidents happen at home.
How did that happen?
This is no accident.
Andy!
I'm Detective Mike Norris, homicide.
Andy!
Miss Peterson's dead, Miss Barkley. She fell from the kitchen window.
Someone's moved in with the Barkley family, and so has terror.
Mommy, I know who was on the counter. Andy!
Who, Andy?
Chucky.
Nobody believes you about Chucky. He came alive in my hand.
Oh, for God's sake.
Why won't you believe me?
Because I'm sane, Mrs. Barkley. Sane and rational.
No one believes the truth. Or lives to tell it. There's nothing nice about murder. And there's nothing innocent about child's play.
If I answer that question you keep asking, if I give you the name of the big enchilada, you know, then it's Bon Voyage Dino. I mean like permanent. I mean like a bullet in my head, you dig? Does that help you see my problem a little better?
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of light in the bushes, and then shots rang out.
No cloak and dagger stuff, you know. They call it Operation Mongoose.
It's gonna be okay, Dave. You just talk to us on the record and we'll protect you. Now, I guarantee it.
You're so naive.
We found this in your office. We think the conference room is also bugged, maybe the phones.
I'm not cooperating here. I'm not cooperating here. Listen, there's a death warrant for me.
Are the same people gonna kill us, Pop?
Nobody's gonna kill us. Y'all gotta get into your minds how the hell the spooks think. Now, they're not ordinary crooks. Think the unthinkable. Question everything. Now, we're through the looking glass here, people. White is black, and black is white. You don't believe me?
I don't know.
All this time, you never believed me.
I just want to raise our children and live a normal life. I want my life back.
Josie!
Hey, look, this thing's bigger than all of us.
Now, how many corpses is it gonna take for you lawyers to figure out what you want? People got to know. People got to know why he was killed.
Do you know what you've done to me? I'm a dead man!
Well, if they can kill the president, they can certainly get me.
You're a mouse fighting a gorilla.
You're close. You're closer than you think.
There's going to be an attempt to kill you somewhere between here and New Orleans. I say let justice be done or the heavens fall.
Yes, and JFK. Wow, what a film. I was so glad to get hold of that. I've needed that in a much higher resolution and condition than what I had previously. And just look at the actors that were there. You saw John Candy at the beginning. You got Jack Lemmon. Kevin Bacon was there. Just some stellar stars all around, you know, the story of JFK and the shooting of JFK. So definitely one that I was looking out for. It may come out in this country, in the UK, and so therefore those other discs won't need a multi-region player. But I'm not worried about that. Like I say, you can make generally any player multi-region if you go to the AV forums, like I've done. You can get them hard modded, or you can use a software mod to play films from other countries. But also the main film is in 4K, and 4K has no region encoding apart from a very, very, very select few. And I believe this one is one of the ones that is region free. With that, I'm going to wish you all a Merry Christmas. I hope it got a bit more entertaining, a bit more fun, and a lot less moaning towards the end. Everybody's position is different. But my intention is always for everybody else to have a great Christmas. My time will come, and I put every effort I can into making it fun for me if I can, and using every opportunity I can. You can't get past loneliness. You can't get past the present things under the tree and that sort of stuff. But what you can do is make good on what you've got. There have been people in a far worse situation than me during wars, depressions, recessions. And I'll look at that every day, reset myself every day, and thank God I'm alive. And with that, Merry, Merry Christmas. I hope you're going to be around for the new year one that I'll do, which will be New Year's Eve. And I'm going to say, salute. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.